I rescued an injured octopus and kept it in my bathtub. At first, he wanted nothing to do with me, shy and withdrawn. Every day, I hand-fed him, played with him, and chattered away at him. Eventually, he got used to me. He even started wrapping his tentacles around my calf when I took a shower. Octopuses are very smart animals. But looking at the steaming hot, four-course meal on my table, I fell silent. There's no way he's this smart, right? A soft splashing sound came from the bathtub. I turned, my body stiff. Today, the beautiful, elegant octopus had decided to turn white. One of his arms was gracefully curled around a copy of 100 delicious home-style recipes. I closed my eyes, then opened them again. The octopus's dark, golden-orange eyes stared back at me, calm as ever. He even looked a little expectant, as if waiting for praise. I pinched myself. It hurt. I wasn't dreaming. The tomato fish soup on the table was still steaming. It was all seafood. I crouched down and leaned closer to the tub. Did you make this for me?" I stammered. He blinked. Another tentacle rose from the water and flipped the cookbook open to the page for tomato fish soup. I suddenly remembered all the things I'd rambled on about to him over the past few weeks. I'm dying for some tomato soup. I'd been observing him, taking notes, and muttering to myself without thinking. I was about to graduate, and it was the most stressful time of my PhD. I'd lose track of time in the lab and often just grab a piece of bread to get by. He understood me. I had soup today, but this was not normal, no matter how you looked at it. I stood frozen in the tiny hallway between the bathroom and the kitchen, wondering if I should just bolt out the door. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at the table, hesitantly sipping the soup. All I can say is, people are incredibly adaptable. The freshness of the fish and the sweetness of the tomatoes, this is so good, I murmured. After finishing the soup, I took the plate of shrimp over to the bathtub and started expertly peeling them. When I first brought him home, he was injured and just hid in the tub for the longest time. I was afraid he'd die, so I peeled shrimp by hand and fed him. I'd coax him with a constant stream of chatter, not caring if he understood a word. "Come on, baby, you have to eat. Eating will help you get better. You have to be a good boy." I reached into the water and gently stroked him. He flinched, his skin darkening slightly as a ripple, like a tiny electric shock, passed over his body. It was like a human blushing. After a brief standoff, he seemed to give up and finally took the shrimp with a tentacle. Oh my gosh, who's the best boy? Who's the smartest boy in the whole world? I was ecstatic. If he was eating, it meant he was going to be okay. I'm a marine biology PhD student, so I have a natural soft spot for sea creatures. You're the best boy. I offered him another shrimp. You need to get better soon, okay? Be strong and healthy. He's grown several times his original size since then. I paused mid-peel. Can octopuses really grow this fast? His tentacles were already 3 times thicker than they were before. Octopuses aren't my specialty, so my knowledge about them is pretty basic. But seeing him waiting patiently for me to feed him, I pushed the doubt from my mind. That's how people are. If something comes to you as a baby, you'll only ever see it as a baby for the rest of its life. His tentacle coiled softly around my arm, leaving a wet, affectionate mark. I couldn't help but smile, nuzzling his cool, smooth skin. Such a good boy. After dinner, I got ready to take a shower as usual. My hand hesitated as I reached for my back. I glanced at the octopus. He was at the bottom of the tub, playing with a little rubber ducky. It should be fine, right? He can cook, I thought, but a pet is still a pet. I undid the clasp on my back, feeling a day's worth of tension release from my body. I put on some music while I undressed. Splash. I turned my head. The octopus was gone from the tub. At the same time, I felt a cool sensation on my calf. He must have snuck out at some point. He found my ankle unerringly through the steam, the cool, slick touch of his skin sending a little shiver through me. "Baby, no being naughty. I relaxed, scolding him lightly, though I was already used to this. Cats and dogs cuddle with their owners all the time. What's so weird about an octopus doing it? He's a cute little baby, too. His tentacle silently wound its way up my leg, softly squeezing the muscles that were stiff from standing all day. A little sound escaped my lips, and I was touched by how thoughtful my pet was. Wow, when did you learn how to give massages? I casually reached down and patted his head. Be good now, don't cause trouble. 3 seconds later, a soft tentacle wrapped around my waist. It was like a vine of ivy, not only claiming my right leg but now exploring its way toward my waist. I froze. The cool, soft touch traveled over my back and waist. I was about to open my mouth to yell at him, but he was being deceptively well behaved, cleverly meeting only my sorest muscles. The pleasure it sent through my body made it impossible to scold him. I braced my hands against the wall. He seemed to know exactly which muscles were the tightest, like a world-class masseuse. I almost let out a contented groan. Warm water showered down from above. He'd even turned on the shower for me, at the perfect temperature. The hot water cascaded over my skin, and I sighed in comfort. It was only when I came back to my senses that I realized what had just happened. I glared at the octopus, who was now back in the tub, hugging his little ducky again. He blinked his reddish gold eyes, as if still waiting for praise. The pet owner mentality took over again. Ugh, who has such a good boy? Thank you, I said, my voice softening. Looks like my baby knows how to take care of his mommy. He glanced at me, then furiously threw the ducky aside and squeezed into a pretty ceramic pot I'd gotten for him. I was bewildered. Baby? He angrily kicked up the fine sand at the bottom of the tub, clouding the perfectly mixed artificial seawater. He was clearly pissed. And I just praised him for being good. I muttered to myself. Do octopuses go through a rebellious teenage phase? I wrapped a towel around myself. The heart of an octopus is as deep and mysterious as the ocean. After that, I got used to finding meals randomly appearing in my house. I got used to this overly intelligent pet, and I got used to his occasional, overly intimate touches. This must just be how higher-level intelligent creatures express affection, I told myself. Until one stormy night. Lightning tore across the sky, and the explosive claps of thunder rattled me. I curled up under the covers, pressing my hands over my ears, my heart pounding. In the darkness, I heard a rustling sound. Baby? I called out tentatively. A cool, slick touch brushed against my ankle from under the covers. I should have been terrified. But after all this time, a touch like that no longer scared me. Baby, I said, my voice thick with tears, did you hear the thunder? Are you scared, too? He slowly pulled the blanket away. A flash of lightning illuminated his massive shadow. When did he get so big? I instinctively sat up, shuffling backward. A flicker of confusion crossed his golden orange eyes, and then a gentle but irresistible force pulled me back down. He practically pinned me to the bed. His skin was no longer cold. It was surprisingly warm. One soft tentacle covered my eyes, while 2 others covered my ears, blocking out the terrifying thunder. I was completely enveloped by him, on the verge of being swallowed whole. In the dark, the places where his skin touched mine felt extra sensitive. I thought I could hear multiple heartbeats. Don't octopuses have 3 hearts? The thought drifted through my hazy mind. Baby? Are you here to protect mommy? My voice was muffled. The pressure on my limbs tightened slightly. I hesitated, remembering his earlier tantrum. You don't like it when I call myself mommy? The pressure eased. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Okay. Should I be your daddy, then? A tentacle squeezed my waist forcefully, rubbing against me in clear annoyance. My fear of the storm had vanished without me even realizing it. I fumbled for his head to pat it and said casually, just kidding. Then I'm your. A low, pleasant male voice suddenly spoke right next to my ear. Baby. His voice seemed to echo from the deep sea. Baby. The blood in my veins turned to ice. Who's talking? I tried to struggle free, but the weight on top of me held me down, firm but gentle. For the first time, I realized the sheer difference in our strength. He suppressed my struggles with ease. It's me. I froze, trying to push away the tentacle covering my eyes. Let me go. I snapped. Just a little longer, he said. You wouldn't want to see me right now. My ragged breathing slowly calmed. You can talk. His voice held a hint of resignation. I was going to wait until I looked like one of you before telling you. His tentacle remained firmly over my eyes, and his voice seemed to travel through our skin, sending an uncontrollable shiver through me. Who are you? A soft sigh brushed against me. I come from the most ancient depths of the ocean. You gave me shelter. Amidst my chaotic thoughts, one thing suddenly clicked. So, this whole time, you heard, and saw, everything? I thought about how I'd been calling him good boy, about all the nonsense I'd rambled on about, and those times in the bathroom. I was about to scream. A nimble tentacle gently tapped my lips, then traced the corner of my mouth. I managed to choke back the sound. But my skin was flushing uncontrollably. Damn pervy octopus. Hadn't he been totally taking advantage of me? What does taking advantage mean? His voice was laced with curiosity. Taking advantage is when I started to answer automatically, then stopped short. How did you know what I was thinking? There was a hint of a smile in his voice. Skin is another way of speaking. So, as long as our skin was touching, he could read my mind? An image I couldn't control flashed in my head. Yesterday, him clinging to me wantonly in the steamy bathroom, his tentacle reaching for. Stop thinking about it. I commanded myself frantically. But of course, the more I tried not to, the more clearly I remembered how his tentacles had explored me, intimately and boldly. Oh, so that's also an option? His thoughtful voice mused. You want me to do that? No, that's not, my words dissolved into a humiliated whimper. But your thoughts, a cool, soft tentacle slipped under the loose collar of my pajamas, are very loud. The darkness amplified every sensation. His tentacle seemed to have a mind of its own. Its nimble movements made my toes curl. Wait, I begged, my voice catching in a sob, unable to tell if I really wanted him to stop. But you're enjoying this, he said, his confusion genuine. Thoughts don't lie. He couldn't understand human contradiction. Ugh, there's no communicating with you little animals. I opened my mouth but couldn't make a sound. No excuse was as honest as my body's reaction. My ragged breaths and the faint splashing from his tentacles were masked by the thunder. I don't know how much time passed, but when I finally came to, gasping, I couldn't take it anymore and bit down on his tentacle. His voice was as soft as a deep-sea wave. Baby, you like it. A tidal wave of shame washed over me. I instinctively burrowed deeper into his embrace, trying to hide myself completely. The thunder had stopped at some point, leaving only the sound of rain tapping against the glass. Why won't you let me see you? I asked. He was silent for a moment. Give me a little more time. Right now, you'd be afraid. How do you know? I challenged. He sighed softly. Humans are very fragile creatures. I'm the one who brought you home. I retorted. I had found him near the rocks while walking on the beach. He had looked so small and helpless then. Octopuses really are masters of disguise. The deep sea is not a peaceful place. I have some unfriendly neighbors. His voice grew low and cold, reminding me of his metallic eyes. The beat of his 3 hearts felt like the rise and fall of the ocean waves. I yawned, and his tentacles pulled me in tighter. Sleep, baby. The next morning, sunlight filtering through a crack in the curtains woke me. I slowly sat up, the blanket slipping from my shoulders. For a moment, I couldn't tell if last night had been a dream. I padded barefoot across the floor and walked, as if in a trance, to the bathroom. He was waiting quietly next to his favorite ceramic pot, his dark golden orange eyes looking completely innocent. He looked so normal. Wait. I leaned closer. There was a very faint ring of teeth marks on one of his tentacles. You're still pretending. I yelled, indignant. He sank guiltily into the water but remained stubbornly silent. I narrowed my eyes and said loudly, Mommy is heading to the lab now. He hated it when I called myself his mommy. Baby, a gentle sigh echoed in my mind. I glanced at where our skin was touching, then back at him. Skin is another way of speaking. I huffed, let go of his tentacle, and walked out. Breakfast was already on the dining table. Seriously, what are you, some kind of magical housekeeper? Can a magical housekeeper be an octopus? My mind raced as I got ready, then I grabbed the sandwich he'd made for me. Before I left, I thought for a moment, then dug out an old phone and placed it next to the tub. If you get bored, you can use this. If he could make breakfast, maybe he could learn to use the internet, too. I took a bite of my sandwich and hurried out the door to catch the next subway. I had barely caught my breath after rushing into the lab when several of my junior lab mates ran up to congratulate me. Sarah. Your dissertation passed the blind review. We should have hot pot at your place to celebrate. What do you say? Watching them cheerfully go off to buy groceries and drinks, one of the girls even ran back to ask me to pick the hot pot soup base. I had mentored all of them. I just couldn't say no. I managed to find a moment to call the old phone. It was answered after 3 rings. I could hear faint splashing on the other end. I spoke quickly, a few friends are coming over for hot pot later. Can you just pretend to be a normal octopus? Sarah. Do you still want that sea salt cheese foam tea? I quickly hung up and turned to nod at my enthusiastic colleague, praying silently. I was a nervous wreck the whole way home. Before opening the door, I took a deep breath and tried to give them a heads up. Hey, so, I have a pet at home, it might be a little messy. They just got more excited. What kind of pet? Animals are the best. I braced myself and opened the door. It's so clean. You're way too modest. Their voices died in their throats, replaced by excited gasps. Only one of the guys let out a shriek like a rubber chicken. My heart jumped. I quickly looked inside. The clothes I'd tossed around, last night's trash, all gone. The home before me was spotless and even smelled faintly of sea salt. No, that wasn't the point. A naked, handsome man, wearing nothing but a small teddy bear apron around his waist, was standing in the middle of the living room. His dark golden orange eyes were fixed on me, tender and focused. Baby. Sarah, we're sorry. We didn't realize that's what you meant by pet. My lab mates stammered, covering their eyes but peeking through their fingers. No, that's not it. I reached out my hand dramatically. That's not what I meant, either. I quickly pushed the giant pet into the bedroom. Just make yourselves comfortable. The moment I saw those eyes, I knew who he was. How did you turn into a person? He tilted his head. Because last night I ate you. I slapped my hand over his mouth, my face burning. Shut up. A warm, wet sensation spread across my palm as he innocently licked it. You gave me strength. On the verge of tears, I looked at the innocent, human-shaped giant octopus before me and knew I had to deal with the immediate problem. I found my largest pair of sweatpants and a dorky old t-shirt with my university's name on it. Put some clothes on. He took the clothes but just held them, looking confused. Clothes. Humans wear clothes. I whispered, fumbling to help him put on the t-shirt. He cooperatively raised his arms. My clothes were way too small for him, the collar almost got stuck on his head. But he let me dress him like a doll. The cheap clothes somehow accentuated the beautiful lines of his muscles, especially across his chest and abs. It was hard to look away. The sweatpants barely hung on his hips, revealing a stretch of toned waist. It was almost worse than him being naked. I grit my teeth. Put the apron back on, too. His low chuckle tickled my ear. He easily wrapped his arms around me from behind and sighed contentedly. Baby. He smelled fresh, like the ocean. I looked up at him. His black hair was fluffy and soft, and his features were so handsome they were almost sharp. He bent down and clumsily kissed my forehead. His golden orange eyes still held an inhuman quality, radiating the aura of an apex predator. But the tight-fitting State University t-shirt also made him seem approachable. He shifted his shoulders uncomfortably. Little animals are never happy about wearing clothes. I patted him soothingly. It'll just be for a little while. I opened the bedroom door. My lab mates were still plastered to it, trying to eavesdrop. I caught them red-handed. So, Sarah, is that your boyfriend? I hesitated. No, the person next to me said, his voice low and pleasant, with a strange, convincing magnetism. I felt a strange pang in my chest, like missing a step on the stairs. I'm her, he gave a pure, innocent smile. Pet. My heart plunged into a warm sea, held up securely. Wait, what? Who calls themselves a pet? He even gave my lab mates a perfectly curved smile. My apologies for being unclothed just now, it was rude of me. Hold on. My mind raced, trying to come up with an excuse. Maybe he was mentally unstable, or a cosplayer, or a life model I'd hired. But weirdly enough, my friends completely accepted his insane answer. One of the girls was even blushing. That's so cool. I want a pet like that, too. No. Do you hear yourself? I suddenly realized he had the power to bewitch people. Octopuses are brilliant predators, masters of illusion, deception, and transformation. He walked calmly into the living room, somehow making the tight university t-shirt and precariously worn sweatpants look like designer streetwear on a supermodel. He started cleaning up the snack bags on the coffee table as if he'd done it 100 times. Weren't we having hot pot? Hearing the word food, the dazed group of grad students suddenly snapped back to normal. Sarah. I bought baby octopus. And super thin calamari slices. And cuttlefish balls. Great, let's just boil my partner and all of his relatives in one pot. My mouth twitched. Wait. It hit me. When did I start thinking of him as my partner? I shot him a quick glare. Don't you dare manipulate my thoughts. He blinked innocently, then discreetly observed how my lab mates were doing things. He quickly learned how to use chopsticks and naturally picked up a red shrimp for me. I instinctively started to peel it for him. I'll do it, he said. His movements were so fluid you'd never know it was his first time. He expertly peeled the shrimp and held it to my lips. One of the girls chewed on her chopsticks, her eyes glazed over. Sarah, your pet is so thoughtful. Where did you get him? I forced a laugh, quickly taking the shrimp. My toes were trying to dig a hole through my slippers. He just watched me, a contented smile on his face. Under the table, his warm calf casually pressed against mine. The moment our skin touched, his voice sounded in my head. I've always wanted to feed you, too, baby. An indescribable wave of embarrassment made me flush. I grabbed my glass and took a sip of water to hide it, but ended up choking. He immediately started patting my back gently, his lips curved in a playful, mischievous smile. When little animals are too smart, they tend to get into mischief. After finally seeing my friends off, the moment the door closed, I spun around to glare at him. He had somehow shed the ridiculous clothes and was stretching his arms out comfortably. It reminded me of how free he looked in the water. Right. Octopuses are escape artists. Clothes are just another restraint to slip out of. His body was as beautiful as a classical Greek sculpture. He walked toward me until I could feel his breath. He raised a hand, his fingertip gently brushing my lips. His touch sent a tiny shiver through me. I heard him mutter softly. Not enough. Compared to his original 7 arms, human arms were pitifully few. I burst out laughing. Even as a human, he was the same as before, always wanting to affectionately nuzzle against me. I fought the urge to pat his head. How did you become human? Because we exchanged pheromones last night. His golden orange eyes shone with a metallic glint in the light. Your pheromones shaped me. What the? My face turned beet red. The frankness of little animals was impossible for me to handle. A mate's pheromones always influence the other. Mate? My heart skipped a beat. He tilted his head innocently. That's you. No, it's not. I couldn't stop myself. I'm just the first person you met. That doesn't make me your mate, I argued in a small voice. I knew animals could imprint on the first person who was kind to them, but I looked into his beautiful, clear eyes and at the face that would get him anything he wanted in human society. My heart felt both sore and soft. The second he walked out that door, if he wanted to, he could have anything in the world. Even if I shamelessly took advantage of his trust in me while he was still naive. He would figure it out one day. In human society, I was just an ordinary person. And he was an ancient, mysterious being. A budding overlord of the deep sea. The distance between us was insurmountable. The deepest parts of the ocean are over 36,000 feet deep, deeper than Mount Everest is tall. He was a place I could never reach. How much longer could I have him? While my mind was racing, he lifted me into his arms. He walked slowly toward the bathroom. I'll prove it to you. He carried me into the bathroom, where warm steam was already filling the air. A familiar, relaxing scent of the ocean hung in the air. Wait, I pressed my hands against his chest as he leaned in, my heart pounding like a drum. I'm not finished. A flash of confusion crossed his golden orange eyes, but he obediently stopped. The swirling steam gave me courage. You are not to manipulate my thoughts, and you are not to call yourself my pet ever again. I didn't, he said, looking at me innocently. I told you, mates always influence each other. The steam was making me feel hot inside. When did I ever agree to be your mate? His inhuman eyes flickered with confusion. Your thoughts are very loud. You crave me, you want me. He tilted his head, his soft black hair falling to the side. Besides, you found me, you fed me, you called me your baby. By human definition, I am your pet. His righteous tone left me speechless. There's no arguing with you deep-sea creatures. Well, you can't. Okay, he agreed easily. I was about to say more, but he leaned in and silenced me in the most primitive way possible. The moment his lips met mine, he hummed in satisfaction, like a happy puppy. It was a clumsy kiss. But he was a shockingly fast learner. Soon, a primal, predatory instinct took over. I started to feel dizzy, like I was sinking into a warm, dangerous ocean. Hot water streamed over our bodies. His hand slid down my back, mimicking the way his tentacles used to massage me, but it brought a completely different, thrilling sensation. Tentacles are still more convenient, he murmured against my lips, clearly not satisfied with the human body. And no. I snapped back to reality, cutting him off in a panic. Don't you dare. He blinked, and I quickly kissed him again to stop his protest. I heard his voice, a siren's whisper laced with a laugh. Why not give it a try? You might like it. I struggled. No way. Humans only have 2 arms. He sighed, a hint of cunning in his voice. All right. One arm around my waist tightened, pressing me deeper against him. The other slid slowly, tentatively, down my spine. He hadn't brought out any more tentacles without permission. But the touch caressing my skin was far more flexible and soft than human fingers. It traced the lines of my bones and muscles with a surprising heat and possessiveness. I couldn't help but tremble, my toes curling. Why don't you like my tentacles? His voice was a low, soft murmur, arriving with a wave of pleasure. They aren't bound by shape. They can explore the softest places. And they can also be incredibly hard. Countless tiny, soft suckers, warm and wet with astonishing suction. They seem to have a mind of their own, happily exploring my every reaction. Baby. I whimpered, unable to tell if he had spoken the word or if I'd just heard it in my head. Are you sure you don't want this? Life seemed to fly by after he took human form. He took over all the chores and cooked 3 meals a day. Maybe it was because he had tentacles to help, but he was astonishingly fast at housework. And every time, he'd wait smugly for my praise. You're such a good boy. I'd pat his head and secretly rub the tentacle that was also begging for praise. Soon, it was the day of my dissertation defense. Maybe I had the god of the ocean on my side, because the dean, who was famous for being difficult, had nothing but praise for my thesis. Graduation was in sight. I ran excitedly out of the lecture hall and almost slammed into a wall. Oh, not a wall. A giant, muscular man. A sperm whale? I asked, stunned, looking up at the mountain of muscle before me. He was almost 6.5 feet tall, with bulging muscles, like a walking fortress. His eyes were a dark, tranquil green, radiating a quiet, solemn calm. He looked down, a hint of confusion in his eyes. How did you know my true form? Dude. What are you talking about? You have a picture of a sperm whale on your t-shirt. Do all you deep-sea creatures look this good as humans? You smell of the deep sea. His voice was like an ancient echo. Is it him? I took a fearful step back. What are you talking about? I don't know. He watched me with his calm, serene eyes. Humans don't belong in the deep sea. Where is he? I forced myself to stay calm. I won't tell you. His dark green eyes studied me for a moment before he spoke slowly. Humans are so foolish. When he drags you down to the depths, to an eternity of silence and darkness with nothing but endless waiting, will you still be so certain then? The sperm whale undid his cuffs, revealing an arm covered in gruesome scars. Have you ever seen his true form? You can only accept his human shape. You don't even have the courage to ask him. And you beautify this feeling by calling it love? A sharp, high-frequency sound stabbed into my brain like a needle. An unprovoked fear and extreme physical discomfort made my vision start to go dark. The horrifying scars morphed before my eyes into an unspeakable deep-sea tableau. My heart seized, and the words just flew out of my mouth. I don't even like him. The high-frequency noise stopped instantly. I heard the terrifying silence of the deep sea. You don't like me? I turned my head stiffly. All the light was gone from those dark, golden-orange eyes, replaced by a bottomless rage. I should have backed away. I should be running, I thought sluggishly, as he walked toward me step by step. But my feet were rooted to the spot. I could only watch as his shadow completely engulfed me. The sperm whale's voice was polite. It seems you need to handle this first. Goodbye. Damn that sperm whale. An irresistible force tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet his fury head-on. The owner of those golden-orange eyes radiated a furious, violent aura. An invisible pressure filled the air, making it hard to breathe. He wasn't just the baby who loved to cuddle with me. He was a terrifying and powerful entity from the deep sea. My vision started to warp, and for a second, I felt myself being lifted off the ground. The next moment, he was holding me as we plunged into an endless ocean. MMH. I instinctively held my breath as water rushed in from all sides. I wouldn't last 10 seconds. Just as I was about to suffocate, his kiss ferociously forced fresh air into my lungs. I clung to him, feeling more like an octopus than he did. My jacket was ripped to shreds in his anger. You don't like me. His voice came through our connected skin, a furious accusation. And no, that's not, I tried to explain, but stopped, stunned. You're not even going to explain. His voice grew even more enraged. No, the reason I stopped was, if both his hands were tearing off my jacket, then what was that exploring under my skirt? I wanted to cry. Can we not do this in the water? I can't breathe. He didn't stop, but a second later, the air rushed back, and I fell, soaking wet, onto my own bed. A flicker of warmth spread through my chest. For all his bluster, he still listened to me. But, can he just appear anywhere he wants? What kind of being is he? I managed to push myself up and saw the man kneeling on the bed, naked, lunging at me fiercely. He covered my eyes, but my arms were yanked above my head and pinned to the headboard. You called me your baby. My clothes were torn to pieces as my waist was lifted and then slammed back down. My voice came out in shattered pieces. Let me explain. A cool finger pressed against my lips, but the pressure on my wrists and eyes didn't let up. Humans only have 2 arms. But he has 7 tentacles. Besides the ones on my eyes and wrists, there were the warm touches on my chest, my back, and my thighs. His tentacles had me completely immobilized, with plenty of power to spare. I wanted to tell him that I was just scared by the sperm whale, that I didn't mean what I said, that I actually really like. Ah. But all that came out was a sharp gasp. Sob, sob, he cried pitifully, but his movements remained just as fierce. My struggles were useless against him. I could only passively endure his possession and his demands. My sense of touch, smell, hearing, even taste, they were all filled with him. My eyes were covered, but the darkness made all my other senses hyper-aware. He was panting heavily as he extended a searingly hot tentacle. Wait, is that? An octopus's 8th arm is the mating arm. My mind went completely blank. All my explanations and denials melted away under that unquestionable invasion. The other 7 tentacles held me like the strongest chains, pinning me firmly within his domain. And the mating arm announced its presence with an undeniable force, impossible to ignore, impossible to refuse. My body went limp, and tears streamed uncontrollably from the corners of my eyes. I instinctively tried to curl up, but my limbs were held fast by his tentacles. You are mine. His agitated and wounded voice came from inside my head, delving deep inside me along with his arm. I suddenly stiffened and grabbed his hand, squeezing back. In the midst of the dizzying pleasure, I held on tight. I'm sorry, I lied to you. I said to him with my entire being, as I fell into the tide he created. His 3 hearts skipped a beat in unison. I actually really love your tentacles. I said it with all my heart. I slowly opened my eyes and looked directly into his reddish gold ones. I love you. So, you 2 made up. The sperm whale held a cup of coffee. It was amazing how a man his size could move so silently. Stay away from us, he said, hugging me possessively, his eyes fixed on the man with wary hostility. His voice was low, carrying the chill of the deep sea. The sperm whale's green eyes narrowed slightly, and his enormous frame seemed to shrink a little. But he didn't back down. I didn't see him speak, but his voice seemed to rise from the ocean floor. A small lesson. You're too young. You still have much to learn. I picked up on his meaning immediately. You did that on purpose? You tried to hurt him through me? You are bonded mates. You share the responsibility of teaching him. When did I agree to that? I was flabbergasted. I thought you guys didn't accept humans. The big guy's deep green eyes blinked slowly, so slowly that time itself seemed to slow down around him. Not all of our kind are fond of humans, he said steadily. Only the dolphins really like to hang out on land. I thought for a second. You mean, like orcas? He gave me a slight smile. Wait, dolphins? Plural? Just how many deep-sea creatures are running around in the human world? And a lesson? I glanced at the fierce, formidable, but clearly much younger man beside me. The sperm whale stated calmly, he shouldn't have provoked me and tried to encroach on my territory. So my guy was the unfriendly neighbor all along. I put my head in my hands. It felt like my own reckless kid went and picked a fight, only to get his butt kicked. Sorry, I murmured, apologizing without thinking. The big guy turned his head to look at me. You're a good human. The deep sea has its own rules. He looked calmly at the being beside me. You found your anchor. That's good. Learn to be calm. The deep sea will have need of you one day. I watched his fortress-like figure disappear into the crowd, strangely unnoticed by anyone. I thought sperm whales would be more ferocious, I said quietly. Oh, he's very old, the man beside me said, clinging to me. He said I'm your anchor. I seemed to have gotten used to his clinginess. Emichim. You keep me calm. The deep sea is so vast, sometimes you can even forget who you are. My habits are determined by you. My color, my temperature, and my scent are all tied to you. His warm skin pressed against mine. You are my mate. We only ever have one mate in our entire lives. You have all my loyalty. A thought occurred to me. You still haven't told me your name. I was always calling him baby this, baby that, but I didn't even know his name. A strange sound resonated in my mind. It was as if it came from the deepest abyss of the ocean, a long, high-frequency sound from the depths of the cosmos, beyond the range of human hearing. Light of the abyss. I realized with a jolt that I understood it. So, all that intimacy wasn't just reshaping him, it was reshaping me, too. What are you, really? I asked. I am, his golden orange eyes focused on me. I am yours. I sank into his warm embrace, a hug so tight I could almost feel the tentacles wrapped around me. Human lives are so short. The ocean is so vast, and there's so much I don't know. What he was didn't matter anymore. He was mine. And that was more than enough.